my view, should be the place where both sides can watch.
And I don't think that you can say that CNN is anything but fair. I mean, look at
The notion that CNN serves as a neutral ground where viewers from all political stripes can find balanced reporting is a lofty ideal, one that's been put to the test time and again. Some argue that the network's coverage is inherently fair, pointing to moments like its detailed reporting on President Biden's exit from the 2024 presidential race as evidence of its commitment to covering both sides. The pressure on Biden to step aside was undeniable, and CNN didn't shy away from dissecting it frame by frame, interview by interview. For someone like Kaitlan Collins, who hails from Alabama, a deep red state with a conservative pulse, this carries personal weight. She's quick to highlight her roots, noting that her family, many of whom are staunch Trump supporters, tune into her show nightly. To her, this is proof of trust, a sign that her audience, even those leaning hard into the MAGA camp, see her as a straight shooter who calls it like it is, no matter the side. But the waters get murkier when you zoom in on the ongoing feud between Collins and Bill Maher. If you thought their tension had fizzled out after past clashes, think again. Collins seems locked in a crusade, one that critics say is aimed squarely at dismantling conservative values, even if it means putting her own reputation on the line. Maher, meanwhile, isn't one to back down either. He's been vocal about calling out what he sees as bias masquerading as journalism. Their history is a powder keg, and recent exchanges have only fanned the flames. Social media is buzzing, with reactions from those who see Collins as a warrior for truth to others who accuse her of peddling a woke agenda under the guise of news. It's a divide that's hard to ignore, and it's fueling a broader conversation about what CNN really stands for in 2025. Take a recent segment where Collins stood in the East Wing of the White House, gesturing toward Barack Obama's presidential portrait. It's been hanging there since its unveiling years ago, a fixture of the space. The question she posed was simple. Would Trump, now back in power, leave it up or tear it down? She noted that Trump had already removed portraits of former officials, like General Mark Milley and ex-Defense Secretary Mark Esper from the Pentagon, a move that raised eyebrows. Yet, as of her report, the East Wing's gallery remained untouched. To some, this was a non-story. Why fixate on wall decor when the country's grappling with an economic crisis? Commenters online didn't hold back, with one calling it a stupid thing to be reporting on at a time like this. Others went further, pinning CNN's declining viewership on this kind of fluff, arguing that obsessing over portraits is why the network's struggling to stay relevant. But there's another angle. Critics of Collins suggest she wasn't just reporting. She was baiting. The theory goes that she was hoping to catch Trump in the act of yanking Obama's portrait down, setting the stage for a fresh wave of outrage on X and beyond. After all, why would Trump scrub some portraits but leave Obama's intact? It's the kind of inconsistency that could spark a narrative, and Collins, they argue, was ready to pounce. This is where Maher's skepticism about her impartiality comes into play. He's long questioned whether she's a journalist or a mouthpiece, and moments like this only fuel his case. To her detractors, it's not about the portraits, it's about the agenda. They see her as less interested in informing and more focused on scoring points against Trump, a pattern they claim is baked into CNN's DNA. That pattern, they say, shines through in how Collins handles interviews. Take her exchange with Maher about Kamala Harris dodging the press during the 2024 campaign. Maher posed a straightforward question. Why was the vice president, now a presidential contender, treating the media like a third rail? He argued it was worse than Trump's enemy of the people rhetoric. Trump at least engaged, even if it was to spar, while Harris seemed to say, "I don't need you." Collins' response? She pivoted. Instead of digging into Harris's media blackout, she swerved to Trump, reminding Maher that she'd covered him daily at the White House and watched him denigrate the press nonstop. It was a classic dodge, deflect from the question and drag Trump into the frame. Maher didn't let it slide, and neither did viewers who saw it as yet another example of CNN's playbook. When in doubt, blame Trump. This isn't a new critique. Remember Jim Acosta's clashes with Trump? Back during the midterms, Acosta challenged the then-president's claim that a migrant caravan was an invasion, insisting it was just a group moving toward the border. Trump held his ground, and the exchange became a viral standoff. Fast forward to 2025, and some see echoes of Acosta and Collins, both quick to frame Trump as the villain, both accused of letting bias bleed into their questions. The difference? Collins has a smoother, delivery, but the intent, critics argue, is the same. Push a narrative, not the facts. When she lingered on those White House portraits, they say it wasn't curiosity. It was calculation, a setup to paint Trump as petty or vindictive if he made a move. Maher's not alone in calling this out. He's gone as far as likening CNN to The View, a comparison that's equal parts savage and hilarious. The View thrives on opinion-driven chaos. Facts are optional, volume is king. For Maher to put CNN in that league isn't just a jab. It's a gut punch. He's saying their reporting's less about journalism and more about partisan theater, a circus where shouting matches pass for debate. And when you watch Collins pivot from Harris to Trump or fixate on portraits while bigger stories loom, it's hard not to see his point. CNN still cloaks itself in the mantle of objectivity, but Maher's arguing the mask is slipping and fast. Then there's Tom Homan, Trump's border czar, who's become a lightning rod in this debate. In a recent CNN interview, Collins pressed him on the logistics of mass deportations, a policy Trump's promised to kick off on day one. Homan was ready. Day one, he said, pausing for effect before dropping the hammer. Collins followed up, citing a supposed $86 billion price tag for the operation, a figure Homan flat out denied ever mentioning. That was a CNN reporter, he shot back, turning the question on its head. It was a masterclass in flipping the script. Collins had walked into it, assuming she could pin him with a gotcha, but Homan wasn't playing. He went further, asking what price you'd put on the lives lost to illegal immigration. Murdered women, raped children, national security risks. It was raw, unfiltered, and a stark contrast to what critics call CNN's sanitized spin Homan's. Not just a foil to Collins, he's a symbol of the broader clash. Where she's accused of chasing headlines, he's focused on results. She pressed him for a deportation target, 11 million, more, but he wouldn't bite. We want to arrest as many as we can, he said, prioritizing criminals and fugitives. To him, it's not about numbers, it's about the law. Collins kept circling, fishing for a figure she could twist, but Homan stayed steady. It's this disconnect, her optics versus his outcomes, that's got people talking. Online, some cheer Homan's no-nonsense style, others blast Collins for missing the forest for the trees. The border debate ties back to the bigger picture. Under Biden, critics say the administration flipped priorities. Foreign nationals over citizens, open borders over security. Homan's point about public safety being government's first job resonates with those who feel abandoned by years of lax enforcement. Harris, as VP, was tasked with the border and, by most accounts, floundered. Yet when Maher asked Collins why Harris ghosted the press, she dodged, again. It's this selective accountability that drives the enemy of the people narrative Trump's long pushed. If CNN won't grill Harris but leaps at every Trump misstep, can you blame folks for crying foul? Maher's take on Harris cuts deeper. He didn't buy the hype around her historic candidacy. First black woman, first Asian woman president. I don't vote for who'll be the first, he said. I vote for who'll win. Harris, he noted, never caught fire. 0 delegates in 2020, invisible as VP. Her border record, a mess. Yet CNN, per Maher, gave her a pass, just as they did Biden. Contrast that with their Trump coverage, and the bias argument gains traction. Julie Rinsky's claim that the media wasn't anti-Trump feels laughable when you stack Fox and Rogan against CNN, MSNBC, and the legacy press, all of which leaned hard into Biden's corner. Collins defends CNN's fairness, leaning on her. Alabama roots and conservative family to bolster her cred. She says they trust her, that she calls it even, but she never says where she stands. That's the rub. Journalism demands transparency, not just folksy anecdotes. If she's a Democrat, fine, say it. Viewers can handle it. But hiding behind both sides while tilting the frame undermines the gig. Trust's already thin. Ambiguity only thins it more. So where's this leave us? CNN's at a crossroads. Collins wants it to be the place where red and blue can meet, but the Maher-Homan critiques paint a different picture, one of bias dressed up as balance. The portrait saga, the Harris dodge, the Homan sparring, it's all fodder for the debate. Is CNN still news, or is it The View with better lighting? As economic crises brew and borders strain, maybe it's time they ditch the games and get real. People are watching, and they're not as blind as the network might think.